Hi, everybody. Welcome. The webinar will be starting soon. Webinar will be starting in a few minutes. We're just waiting for everybody to join. I think I'll give it another minute or so. Make sure everybody's here. Not quite 1 o'clock. Start in about 30 seconds to a minute. There's still people coming in. We're at 1 on the dot, so I think we'll wait another. Welcome, everybody. We're just waiting for people to come in. We're going to start soon. We're starting very shortly. Okay, let's go.
Welcome, everyone. And thank you very much for showing interest for this webinar. So my name is Benoit Fontaine. I'm the Executive Director of Myriad Canada Foundation. Augustine, who is the Development and Engagement Manager at Myriad Canada, will explain a little bit more about our work. And I would like to thank Mathilde and Sonia, who are beyond the scene to organize this webinar. I would like to start by acknowledging that the offices of Myriad Canada are located on unceded indigenous land, Teotihuacan, which means Montreal. We live in very trying times. As you probably know, with the USAID cuts, 40% of the global humanitarian budget disappeared a few months ago. It has terrible consequences for refugees all over the world. There are 130 million refugees all over the world. So these cuts really have an impact on refugees, on vaccinations, on very, very basic needs that vulnerable population really need in the world. So I would like to thank all the participants, the partners, the donors, because showing interest for international solidarity is extremely important always, but certainly also in these very trying times where, again, 40% of the global budget, which is there to support extremely vulnerable people, really disappeared. So thank you. Your support as a donor, as partner, make a real big difference. So today we have the pleasure to have attendees from many countries in the world, from Canada, the US, India, Pakistan, Australia, and France and other European countries. And the goal is to highlight the collaboration that we have with the World Central Kitchen, an amazing organization, really amazing organization, providing meals at large scale all over the world. And we started the collaboration with the World Central Kitchen, I think 4 years ago, for project in Haiti, project in Gaza, project in Ukraine. And you see here John, who is in Jamaica. So the goal, we have 1 hour. The goal is to stay within the 1 hour. I know you are very busy. It's the end of the year. And I will certainly, I can encourage you to chat, use the chat just to present yourself and to say who you are. And I will leave the floor to Peggy. Peggy she's a consultant. We've been working with Peggy for many years, and she has a strong international background, going back to South Africa, but also she worked in Central Africa and in former Yugoslavia. So thank you again for being there. Thank you for showing your interest. And Peggy, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Benoit. And hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm really, really happy to be here with you today. As many of you know, World Central Kitchen is all about providing fresh, nourishing meals to communities in crisis. They work hand in hand with local restaurants and vendors, and they bring not just food, but comfort, hope, and dignity to people. To do that kind of work, you need a team that can move quickly, adapt constantly, and truly believe in changing the world through food. So today you're going to meet 2 people who embody exactly that. First, I'd like to introduce you to Paige Cofield, Director of Individual Giving at World Central Kitchen. Paige leads engagement with donors and family foundations, and she and her team help connect committed supporters with opportunities to fund essential food relief work during crises. She brings a mission-driven approach to building long-term philanthropic relationships with partners to support resilience and recovery around the world. Welcome, Paige. And joining her is, as Benoit mentioned, is John Torpey, who is a response director at World Central Kitchen. He leads on-the-ground teams to assess needs and quickly scale meal operations during emergencies. He coordinates everything from culinary and supply chain to distribution, community outreach, to make sure that meals reach people wherever they're needed most. He's directed major responses to Hurricanes Milton and Helene in the southern US, the earthquakes in Morocco and Turkey, displacement crises in Haiti, and early efforts in the Middle East. And right now, as you can see, he's right there in the thick of it. He's leading the response to Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, and he's joining us live from the field there, from a warehouse where they are at this moment preparing. Thank you for being here, John. Our third speaker, as Benoit also mentioned, is from Myriad Canada. It is Augustine Hermans. She's a development and engagement manager, managing donor relationships and developing new partnerships with nonprofit organizations internationally. I know you're all raring to go, but first, let's have a really quick look at the work that's being done by World Central Kitchen around the world. We're going to show you a 2-minute video.
Category 4 hurricane slamming into Florida's southwest coast this afternoon.
Firefighters are battling a devastating forest fire near Yosemite.
Explosions that rocked the Ukrainian capital.
An aftershock of,
Feed everybody as quick as you can. Don't tell me you're getting ready to do it a month later. Don't tell me you are waiting to do it until you have everything ready to do it. It has to be urgent. Food and water is now. We didn't have enough trays, we didn't have enough plates, we didn't have enough knives, we didn't have enough hands. But we began. Anything else will take too much time. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, today. do it with locals.
We're not victims. We're just neighbors helping neighbors.
We overcome every obstacle, and if we cannot overcome the obstacle, we go around. Here we are, and we'll come back tomorrow and the day after until you are okay.
لكن رغم كل اللي شفته في الحرب وهدم بيتي وتشريدي إلا إني كمان بازدياد قادرة إني أساعد وأعطي الناس مش بس في وجبات الطبيخ تعبي وعرق جبيني إني مساعدة كمان إني أساهم وأساعد في الناس.
And that's what makes World Central Kitchen so special. We have to go.
I don't know about everybody else, but my heart's racing after watching that. So it's a good segue into talking to John in particular. Before we dive into the questions, I just want to let you know that if you have any of your own, please put them in the Q&A chat, which is on the bottom of your screen. And a reminder that this isn't the general chat, which is on the bottom of your screen also. I'd encourage you to introduce yourselves if you want, comment, say anything you'd like. And we'll see how many of your questions we can answer, but we're going to start by some questions we've prepared. I'm going to start with a question to you, John. Responding to one emergency is already complex, but responding to several at the same time requires, I imagine, tough choices. What helps you decide where to deploy first when multiple crises hit?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll just give you an example of something that I actually went through, which was multiple different crises going on at the same time. We had staged in Tallahassee in Florida for Hurricane Helene coming through. The storm actually changed tack and went kind of in the corner of Florida, and the storm surge was the biggest problem that we had. That's where they were really hard hit. So we ended up having to move very quickly to Tampa, Florida, where most of the destruction had happened because of the flooding. As I was getting ready for bed that night, I was watching the news, and Asheville, North Carolina came up. So I've got a whole team ready to go to help out in the Tampa area and the coastal Florida. And I'm watching the news about all this flooding going on in Asheville, North Carolina. And I'm like, what in the world is this? It turns out that the storm had come through as a Category 5, went through Georgia as a Category 2, exited, went into North Carolina as a Category 1. And it was getting just a bit of news at that time. I immediately got on a flight the next day, told my team, and I already had my team prepared in Florida, got on the plane, showed up in North Carolina the next day, found restaurant partners, actually found one of our Chef Corps members who had worked with us in Poland, who had worked with us in Turkey, who had worked with us other places. He had a restaurant there. And we opened the doors on that place almost immediately, started setting up tables, and I said, we need 2,000 meals to go right now. It just goes to show you how quickly we can move sometimes. And when you have people all over the world, when you have Chef Corps members, when you have people that you've worked with before, somebody knows somebody, that's our superpower. That's how we can move quickly, but that's also how we can scale. And scaling is very important. So when there are multiple activations, responses going on, crises in the world, whether it be Ukraine or Gaza or Turkey or Morocco or flooding in the United States or fires in California, we rely on people to help us. We provide, a lot of times I can do things over the phone to get people started. It's like, hey, what are you seeing over there? Where are people sheltering, or where do you see problems? Do you have a couple cars? Can I send you a rental car? Can you put 500 meals in that car to get started feeding people as quickly as possible, so that we can assemble a team, get them over there to scale up. But really, like Jose said in the video, is we have to get started. We have to do it immediately. We have to let people know that we're there, that somebody is there that's going to be helping them through these hard times. And it's just important that we have these networks, these connections, these people that support WCK to be able to just to jump in and help as much as possible. And the response will grow as needed, but really just getting started, getting local people, somebody who knows a restaurant partner, who knows a warehouse, who knows where to get a pot and a pan, somebody who knows where to get propane so we can start cooking. That's how we can move quickly. And that's how we respond to multiple activations, multiple crises, multiple humanitarian events at one time. It is really the power of the people that support us, that have worked with us, that know us, and we can get started as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And it really is powerful to see what happens at the point where the community need meets real practical support, and to understand the effort required to make it happen. I'd like to ask a question about some of the biggest logistical challenges that you might face in areas, for example, like Gaza, and how you overcome them. I'll start maybe with you, Paige.
Sure. Thanks so much, Peggy. Our logistical challenges are one of those things, I think, that where John was speaking as well, that they're different in every activation. So Gaza specifically, as you mentioned, Peggy, is one of our most difficult activations that we've ever worked on, just because of the current state of the area over there. There's been ups and downs throughout the last 3 years since we've been in Gaza, but I would say our biggest consistent logistical struggle is getting food across the border. Currently, right now, we are daily, thankfully, getting trucks across the borders to our kitchens, and so we're able to serve food, and we're able to feed the people that are in need. But it's different every day, and there's ups and downs. I would say another logistical just situation that we're always looking at is safety and security in Gaza. And so that's something that I would say is top priority for us in every activation. And it's one that we're constantly looking at in Gaza specifically. Thankfully, we have amazing relationships with the government over there, and we have amazing relationships with other nonprofit partners and other people that we work very closely with. So we are able to remain safe and make sure that our teams are remaining safe. That's Gaza specifically. In other areas, I'm sure Jamaica, there's different logistical challenges of like getting food into the area after disasters, but John could probably speak more to that since he's actually there. And then one of the things I'm thinking through too is like we responded earlier this year to the wildfires in California. And one of our challenges there, and one of the things that I love so much about our team, is that they remain nimble in every situation. And the fires there, when they happened, we usually set up field kitchens when we go to locations, but that wasn't working just because the fires were moving to different areas. And so we utilized food trucks instead. So that is one of the things that WCK does so well, is that we adjust when there are challenges. And I always like to say challenges are opportunities. And I think that is what our team sees them as well. And truly the people that I get to work with that are in the field doing this are the best at that. They're the best at remaining nimble and coming up against the challenges and figuring out different things. One more quick story before I pass it to John is one of my favorite stories, and specifically about Gaza, is when there was a time a few months ago back in the summer when the borders were completely closed and no food was getting across. We had to stop cooking, that was the first time in our time there that we had to do that. During that time, our team, though, were like, we're not going to stop providing for people. And so they figured out how to create desalination units with some of the materials that we had, and they started to deliver clean and safe water while we couldn't cook. And so that's something we still remain to do, but that just shows also like the nimbleness of the people in the field.
Those are great stories. Maybe I can ask Johnny if he can share one with us.
Yeah, sure. I probably have two, and I'll echo Gaza because I was there in the beginning, getting everything set up, and we were setting up field kitchens in 3-4 different places, big kitchens, but there was a massive need there, and so we spread them out across Gaza. But Gaza cranked very quickly. as they were being moved into the safe zones. Some of the areas that we had set up kitchens no longer were viable. They turned into red zones. So when you have people that are committed, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. And what we did immediately is just started building new kitchens. We took the equipment out, we moved it to another location, not as easy as it sounds in Gaza, but we were able to set things up very quickly. We set up in a water park at one point. We were cooking out of the swimming pool. We were cooking around the swimming pool. We had storage in the dressing rooms to be able to keep going, to find places that we needed to keep cooking. And not to mention all the community kitchens that we had there. There were hundreds of people that were able to cook 500 meals. And we were bringing food in, flour, rice, beans, whatever, sending it on donkeys out to these people every day so they could cook in a very small area. And they were extremely nimble and able to move around based on the situation on the ground. Another story is we were just recently in a small Indian Ocean island called Mayotte. Mayotte was a very small area, but was affected massively by Cyclone Cheeto. There's a lot of people in the mountains that lost their homes. What was already a little bit on the poverty side. They didn't have any food. Their crops were wiped out. People were out of jobs. We had a very hard time finding food there. What we did is we looked all around. We brought in MREs from South Africa. We actually rented an ocean liner out of Kenya, loaded it with 1.5 million meals, brought it into the port, and started cooking with what we had. We were using small restaurants, again, kind of the similar model as Gaza, but we weren't going to be stopped just because we didn't have food. We just had to think differently. We had to dig down and go to plan C and plan D. And when that boat arrived, we were able to do a massive amount of meals in a very short period of time. So adaptability, it's our strength. We never say no. We never say we don't have something. It's go find it, figure it out, and get it done as quickly as possible. And I think that's WCK in a nutshell.
That's great. Those are amazing stories. And I'm just going to go back to something you mentioned already, Paige. You talked about how your teams often work in dangerous, high-stress situations. Is there some kind of way that you look after your staff and volunteers, both physically and emotionally?
Yeah, so we have a great safety and security team here at World Central Kitchen who are trained and some of the best of the best. I've worked in the humanitarian world most of my career, and these are some of the best of the best, and I can say that with confidence. Constantly monitoring each area that we go into to see kind of what alerts are out there, what needs to be sent to the team, open communication constantly, without getting into too many details so that we don't, so that we're making sure we're maintaining safety. They truly are the best of the best. I would say for our mental just well-being and our team's mental well-being, we partner with a global group called Conterra, who specifically is a mental health group that works with humanitarian aid workers. And so everyone has access to that. A recent story, just because of the volatile state of Palestine and Gaza in that area, our team members were able to gather together with someone in person and be able to just have a retreat like that. And so that is something that we're constantly looking at and making sure that people are taken care of. In activations such as Gaza, we also rotate people out because it is such a high stress space that we're not keeping people in for more than the time that feels like burnout to them. So there's constant care, constant checking in, constant communication, and making sure that everyone's safe and that everyone is emotionally taken care of as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
John, you wanted to add something?
I'll add something. I think it's also important that me as a response director in my position is understanding that I'm not putting too much stress on people. It's a stressful enough situation when we come in. You can see behind me, we're cooking here in Jamaica. For the first week, we didn't have a shower. We were eating MREs as we got started. Those are stressful situations. I'm constantly checking in with the team, sitting down, having a meal with them, just talking through their day, their plan. What can I take off there? What can I add on? How can I redirect them to make things sometimes easier? There's better ways to do things. We also have to remember that you see behind me, I'm here in Jamaica. We have a lot of Jamaicans working for us. We have over 550 Jamaicans that are working with World Central Kitchen right now. Each and every one of these people was here during this hurricane. This is a Category 5 hurricane that came through Jamaica. People have lost homes. People have they don't have power. They don't have water. I was talking to one of the drivers the other day. We were just chatting, and we had a day off, and I asked him. I said, "What are you going to do? Are you going to get some rest?" He's like, "No, I've got to shovel out my home. It's full of mud." When we're in Turkey, somebody's family home has been just pancaked after an earthquake there. We have to be really mindful of that. These people want to help. They want to dive in. They want to continue on. They want to help their neighbors, but we have to understand that they went through a very, very traumatic time as well. And we have to sometimes give them that space, give them an afternoon off, or if they need to go and check on their children because they're staying at the grandmother's house because that was the only house standing. Those are things that we need to understand from our employees to be able to help them, to give them that space, not only to help, but to recover themselves. And it's one of the most important things that we can do is just talking with people and meeting them where they are.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough on so many levels. I just want to remind people that if you want to ask some questions, please put them in the Q&A chat, and we'll try to get to them in a little while. So you're welcome to do that. John, as you're talking and you're, where we can see where you are, I'd like just maybe a really specific question. The moment that you arrive in a new situation, what's the very first thing that you're going to focus on? Is there one thing?
No, absolutely not. There's a million things. One of the things that I look for first is, where's the hardest hit area, because that's where people are going to be most effective. So I want to make sure that I know that you really have to clear the fog, right? We don't know what happened. We don't know where people are hurting. Sometimes we don't know exactly where everything is. So we have to send teams out to be able to assess that. But when we go out, we're always assessing. We're coming in with food, with water. We're meeting them where they are. And quite frankly, it's right after a disaster. People are still wide-eyed. They're still in shock. They're still trying to figure out what happened themselves. They're clearing the fog. So one of the things that we need to do is not only understand where they're at, but provide a little bit of comfort to let them know that, hey, we're here. It's one less thing you're going to have to worry about because we're coming back tomorrow, or we're coming back tonight, but we're coming back every single time. So as a response director, as I'm looking for a warehouse to put a kitchen in, or we're trying to find restaurants that are still able to cook, or a restaurant that may not have power that we can provide a generator to get their refrigeration back up and running. And as we're looking for suppliers that can provide chicken and can provide rice, and we're finding fuel companies that can provide propane, and we're trying to find pots that we can cook out of, or we're trying to find anything we can get our hands on to start feeding people as quickly as possible. So it really isn't one thing. It's many different things that all come together to be able to serve that person that was affected a hot meal and give them that hope, give them that warmth. It's very, very important for us. So there's just a lot of things that we're looking at any given time in a response.
Thank you. I'm just changed tack a little bit to ask a very practical question. I'll ask Paige. Can you give us an idea what it costs on average to provide a meal in the places that you're currently active? I think that's Jamaica, Gaza, Haiti, and Ukraine right now.
Yes, and we're in other areas as well, but I can highlight those for sure. I'll say too, just to revert back to your first question, Peggy, that you asked John, because that's one of the things that I love that your team does best, John, is I feel like when you go to the field, you listen. So they're not going in trying to just go to the space that they think needs help, but they're listening to the community. We always say community is our superpower because truly we wouldn't be able to do what we do without the community. And so listening, I think, is a huge part of what they do. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but that's one of the things that I personally love most about our work is that we are really listening to the community. And even in Jamaica, it's Jamaica serving Jamaicans. And in Gaza, it's Gazans serving Gazans. And so super grateful to be a part of an organization like that. For your other question, Peggy, on cost of meals, the average cost across the board. So I'll start there is we use the number of $5 per meal. And of course, in different activations, it's different cost depending on kind of the food and where we're at in the world. For example, when we were in California at the beginning of the year, that was closer to $8 or $9 just because it's a higher cost. In Gaza, it has fluctuated across the years when, food is harder to get across the borders and there's a higher demand on supply and demand. It's gone up. Currently, right now, because borders are more open and access is easier, we're close to $2 a meal in Gaza. Jamaica, John, correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like this has gone back and forth as well. But the last that I heard, it was around $7 a meal. Is that correct?
It's actually a little bit less. One of the things that affects the cost per meal is early in an activation as we're gathering up everything and we're moving things quickly. It's more expensive, but it eventually comes down. So now that we're at 3.5 million meals and counting, our cost is coming down. It's probably around $5 right now.
Yeah. So it changes throughout an activation and, of course, depends on supply and demand as well. Ukraine has also a lower cost right now simply because we've been there for years and we've been able to, partner with the local community and get those costs down. And so that is also around $4 a meal. I think that answered all the locations you mentioned, Peggy. Let me know if I missed one.
No, but if you want to mention any others, feel free that you're active in at the moment.
Yeah, of course. So John would probably be able to speak better to this than I would because I know some things shift behind the scenes before I'm seeing it here from Washington, D.C. But currently we're active in Ukraine, as you mentioned, in Gaza, in Jamaica. We responded to Indonesia as well during the floods. And then I think that's currently...
Don't forget about Haiti.
And Haiti. Yes, we are also in Haiti, which is that's where our work started. And we're there now in the unrest too, partnering with the local community, which is a super powerful activation.
Great, thank you. I'm hoping to get some questions. I know that Matilda's been collecting some, but I'm just going to, in the meantime, ask a question that we get asked for sure. What can people do to support you meaningfully?
There's lots of different ways to get involved with World Central Kitchen, I would say. I think one of the ways that I always direct people first is to sign up for our newsletter because our newsletter has the most up-to-date information of when we are activating in different locations. And then from there, you're able to figure out different ways of becoming involved. We also do have our volunteer core. And so if you go to wck.org/volunteer, you can sign up and hopefully this is never a reality for you. But if you find a disaster in your area, then our volunteer leaders will reach out to you to see if you would like to volunteer while we are on the ground in your area. We don't send people to other locations for that safety and security reason. But that's the best way to volunteer for us is to sign up at wck.org/volunteer. And then also, of course, we have our wonderful way of donating. We truly couldn't do what we do without the support of so many amazing donors who are a part of World Central Kitchen. And I just want to highlight one way to get involved that we just actually launched this week, which is our Kitchen Core program. And so it's our monthly donor program. And I think that's also a way you can give through Myriad Canada and become a part of that. And it gives you behind the scenes access to our work as well. So those are some ideas off the top of my head. There's others as well as you dig deeper into our work. But I would say the best way is to sign up to get information about us.
Great. So there was the question that Benoit had, which was how do you assess when you, I guess, Benoit, you mean when you need to leave a country?
I can take that one. It's never easy when we're leaving, especially in areas that already have a good amount of poverty. So some of the indicators that we look for, obviously, is some of the easier ones are electricity, our water coming back online, powers coming back. Some of the other ones, like we're looking at in Jamaica right now, are people going back to work. A lot of what drives Jamaica is tourism, right? And the hotels suffered immensely here with the power down, with the water out, with just general damage to the hotels. They're rebuilding as quickly as possible, and we're watching to see as people finally get to go back to work. That's a very important indicator for us. Also, we don't really want to stay if restaurants are opening back up, if supermarkets are opening back up, because we don't want to have that effect on an economy. We want to help drive the economic engine again. And so making sure that people do have access to restaurants, so they do have access to supermarkets, or the farming is coming back. The roadside stalls they have the potatoes and the onions and the carrots. Those are definitely some things that we look at as we decide whether or not when we're leaving. Sometimes it's little things. When people tell us, well, I don't like chicken. Do you have beef by any chance? And some of those things are always fun to hear, because it does mean that we've done a good job. We've fed the communities, and when people start getting a little bit picky, that's a good indicator for me. So it's a wide variety of things, but I think the most important thing for us is we don't really want to upset the economy. We want the economy to get rolling again. And that's kind of our cue to stand back and let the natural progression happen.
And that actually leads into a question that we got from someone, which was following your initial activations, how do you help local community rebuild?
So there's a lot of ways we do it. We purchase locally. So we'll find farmers markets, or we'll find farmers like we did in Hawaii after the Lahaina fires. The hotels there were closed. It was a pretty devastating fire there. We actually went to farms and said, give us everything that you have. They had no place to sell it, but we had a place to cook it. So let us help you. Bring it over, and we'll pay for that. Getting restaurants up and going again is really important for us. If the restaurant is able to cook, we can pay them a per meal price to keep them going until that recovery starts to happen. It's hiring local people. You see all the people behind me. It's a combination of people that we've hired, but there's also volunteers that want to help. That helps drive the economy. Here, we have over 250 vans going out every day. These were drivers that would drive people around from the hotels. They were tourism drivers. They would take people to the waterfalls. They would pick people up at airports. They would take people around on tours of Jamaica. These people weren't working. We were able to help them in their own little recovery, right? Because now they have the ability to put a roof back on their house, or to get a new water tank, or to maybe help their neighbors. And it's really important that we're looking for any way that we can to kind of help stimulate that economy while we're feeding the communities.
Thank you. Questions are coming in, so we're going to see how many we can do. This was, John mentioned local employees. Are they volunteers, or are they remunerated? And how does that work? How do you select the workers in such a rapid ramp up?
So we will pay. We will pay employees. We will have a kind of a set list of people that we absolutely need, people that we need for weeks on time, that we will employ during a response. But there's also those volunteers that come in that are extremely helpful, that maybe they can only give you 3 or 4 days, or they can only give you an afternoon, or maybe they can give you a little bit longer than that. But they just want to show up and help. They want to make a sandwich. They want to stir a pot. They want to push what you see behind me. They want to push a pallet around to bring the chef's vegetables, to bring the chef's rice. People want to help in so many ways. And I think that's where the volunteers are extremely helpful because they just kind of jump in and help. But yes, we do a little bit of both. We do pay people on longer term assignments, and we do encourage volunteers to come in to help because a lot of times when people volunteer, it gives them kind of a reprieve from what they're going through. It takes their mind off things for a couple of days, or it gives them a sense of purpose that they are helping their community, they are helping it rebuild. And that's extremely, extremely important, especially after such devastating events like hurricanes or earthquakes and things like that.
Right. Another question, maybe this is for you, Paige, it could be for both of you. The person says, I'm sure this varies, but how long do you typically stay in a country if there has been a natural disaster?
It does vary. I think to the question earlier about making sure that we're staying in a space until they don't need us anymore, until we're not really affecting the local economy. And so it truly varies. Sometimes it's very short, 2 weeks. Sometimes it's longer, such as years, such as we've seen in Ukraine and Gaza. I think Jamaica has been one of our larger natural disaster responses alongside Hurricane Helene in the southern U.S. last year. That was also a very long response for a natural disaster. I think it ended up being close to a year. And so it truly does depend on the need of the community and making sure that they feel supported and that they have what they need to sustain themselves.
Thank you. It's really important that we, again, going back to Paige's comments, is that we listen. And a lot of times you'll kind of know that, hey, we're gonna be finishing up here. These people they're back on their feet. You can see the resources are coming back online, and if you can just tell sometimes that it's time for us to go. We've done what we can here, and it's been fantastic. It could be 2 days, it could be months. So yeah, it does vary quite a bit.
Great. This is an interesting question. You've talked a lot about the challenges that you face, but this question is specifically about what is the most challenging part of your job. So maybe you could start, Paige.
I think the most for me personally, so as you mentioned earlier, Peggy, I have the joy and honor of leading our individual giving team. And so there's clearly always competing priorities going on there. And WCK is an organization that moves at super speed, which is what makes us so successful. And so really navigating the challenge of making sure that we're staying on top of each need for each area. I can give an example this go around. Like, we responded quite quickly to Jamaica, but there was specific needs around funding that were unexpected. And so making sure that my team can work quickly to raise the money so that we can feed the people is sometimes a challenge, but a fun opportunity to let people know of the opportunity of how their generosity can make an impact in people's lives. And so I think that's probably the switching priorities is probably one of the challenges that we face daily in fundraising.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
John, do you want to give it a try?
There's really no challenges when you love what you do. A lot of times we'll talk amongst ourselves and we always say there's no challenges, only solutions. And sometimes you're working, you're scratching your head, you're wondering, how are we going to do this? And you collaborate and you talk to people and somebody who knows somebody that can get a warehouse for us so we can cook, or they know a group of drivers that can take us out into a community. Sometimes our greatest challenge is just getting there. I've been, there's many times where I'm on a plane heading somewhere and I'm like, what am I getting myself into? What am I looking for here as I'm researching what the country looks like? What are the cultural aspects of a country? What are the culinary needs? Do we know anybody there? What are some of the things that we'll do once we get on the ground? How can I find food quickly so that we can start scouting? Where am I going to stay at night? Do I have running water? Do I need to sleep in a tent? all these things come to mind as I'm moving in. And the challenging part is always in the first few days, because we can figure things out very quickly. And it does get chaotic and it does get challenging. But I think we've done this enough times to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We always figure this out. We'll always get what we need. We're well supported with the community, with WCK as a whole. We will overcome these challenges, no matter what they are. Sometimes it takes minutes. Sometimes it might take a couple hours to figure it out, but we always do.
I have a question. This is probably the last one before we go on to hear a bit about how Myriad Canada works in collaboration with you. And that is, can you tell us about a moment that brought you joy during a response? Another way of putting it is, there a story from the field that's really stayed with you, something that captures why you do this work? I don't know who wants to start.
I can kick us off because there's one that popped in my head right away, and it's a recent one that our field director from Gaza shared with a group of people that I was with, and it truly was a reminder for me of like, this is why we do what we do. And it might sound like a sad story, because it is, but at the same time, I think that it brought hope for me of like, there are amazing people who are making a different reality for people who are in need. And so the story goes as this. Our team in Gaza were in the field distributing fresh fruit, which is something that was lacking for months and not able to get across the borders. And they went to a local community, and one of the people who were distributing the fruit handed out a banana to a 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old then said to his father, he said, "Dada, do I eat the peel?" And for me, I mean, he said that because in his 3 years of life, he had never ate a banana. And for me, that we were able to provide that moment of hope that like there is more for this 3-year-old, there's more for the communities in Gaza and the surrounding areas, was a strong reminder for me of like, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah, one thing that really sticks out with me was when the Ukraine conflict first started, and we were on the border between Poland and Ukraine, and there was a massive evacuation going on, and the evacuation was women and children because the men could not leave. So families were being kind of torn apart because of this conflict. And as they came across the border from Ukraine into Poland, they had to walk down this path. And so you would see these people, mostly women, sometimes with their small children, coming across the border, and just the look on their faces, not knowing what their future held, not knowing sometimes where they were going to go or what they were going to do, but being able to kind of be that first people to meet them as they came across the border and bring them into a warm tent and offer them a tea or a borscht or food, and just let them decompress for a minute, because it was such a challenging time. And to be able to provide them just that, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes they would stay for an hour, because they just didn't know what the future held. They left behind loved ones, they left behind their husbands, they left behind their fathers, to give them that hope that people did care about them, that people were there for them. It was going to be okay. Even during these really trying times, it was one of the most powerful moments for me in my career at World Central Kitchen.
Well, that's incredibly moving. Thank you both. So this has been really insightful and inspiring. And of course, the work that you do is supported by people all around the world, including here in Canada, some of them with us today. So I want to just take a brief moment to get a fuller picture of the systems and partnerships at Myriad Canada, so how what they can do to ensure support for projects all around the world. So I'm going to hand over to Augustine Hermans and ask her, first of all, to start by telling us about what Myriad Canada's mission is.
Thank you, Peggy. So, Myriad Canada, we are a registered Canadian charitable organization with the mission to facilitate cross-border giving. So, we work with donors such as individuals, families, corporations, non-profits across all provinces in Canada to help bring their international philanthropy goals to life through a donor-advised approach and while issuing Canadian tax receipts for their donations. Myriad Canada, we are a founding member of the Myriad Alliance for Borderless Giving. So it's a global network with offices in Canada, but also in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia and New Zealand, offering services that support cross-border giving worldwide. And these networks give us access, of course, to a strong international network and also to extensive practical expertise and knowledge.
Thank you. Can you give us an idea of the kind of projects you support?
Yes, so Myriad Canada launched its activities in 2018, and in 2024 only, we received 20 million Canadian dollars in donation. We support 80 projects in 42 countries. So we implement projects in emergency relief, but also poverty relief, education, health, scientific research, the arts, the environment. We work in direct partnership with local organizations and in full compliance with the Canada Revenue Agency's guidelines, of course.
What is it that makes Myriad Canada unique?
A good question. So first, we are fortunate to have our own endowment fund, which helps cover part of our operation. So it allows us to take a very low administrative fee on the donation that we receive at Myriad Canada to manage international charitable projects. Then we also have a dedicated team based here in Canada, so a team of 10 professionals who work closely with all our partners, following a human and flexible approach when managing each project. And then finally, we are known for our efficiency. So depending on how responsive the partner is, on our side, we can launch a new project within just a few weeks.
That's great. How can people get in touch with you or learn more about your work?
So Mathilde is gonna put some contact details in the chat, but basically if you would like to support the current project we have right now with World Central Kitchen, you can find the link, you will find the link shortly in the chat. Also, if besides that, if you are a donor based in Canada, if you, your family, your friends, your company, your nonprofit, you would like to support a specific cause outside of Canada, it can be a school in Kenya, it can be a research institute in the US, it can be a university in India, I'll invite you to contact me via email directly. So my email address is in the chat so that we can start a discussion about it.
Thank you so much, Augustine. So the link is there in case what you've heard today has inspired you to support this project. And we're at the end of our time together. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're truly grateful to each of you, our partners, supporters, and friends, for your interest, your questions, and your ongoing commitment to make a meaningful impact on causes and communities around the world. A special thank you to our speakers for sharing their insights and giving us a closer look at the remarkable work happening on the ground, especially to you, John, for making the time and obviously on the ground work to be able to share these stories and insights with us. And to everyone behind the scenes who helped make the session possible, thank you as well. If you can spare a couple of minutes as we close, we'd really appreciate it if you complete a short survey that you'll be getting, and we'd like to hear from you. On behalf of all of us again, thank you for being with us. We look forward to staying connected. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.